in that era, philanthropy was, I think, a lot of people were much more philanthropic and were caring about the society and people, neighborhoods. It's not only him, there are other people also in that era. I think they took pride in giving back to society, which unfortunately very few people do today. So some of the things that he's done for that area was to build a school. He's very involved with and interested in making sure that people get educated. So it's a school there, that he's built a mosque for the community. Then, as you are aware, that he's built a Gosha hospital for called the basically for Muslim women who otherwise would have delivered babies at home. So these are some of the things which he's done. And then Mosque Road is named after him because of his work and his contributions to society.
When he was doing his, during the Second World War, when he was doing his training in Bangalore, he liked the quietness, the cleanliness, the weather of Bangalore. And it was a beautiful, clean place. And as you know, Bangalore was known as the pensioner's paradise. Then itself he has fallen for Bangalore, and he has, as a young boy, he had his dream of settling down in Bangalore.
This was his first posting. So that is how. And he liked that time, he liked it very much. That is 45, 43, 45 during the war.
And then my grandfather, on retirement, came and settled in Bangalore, where he bought 6 Ware Road for 7,000 rupees. I remember that very clearly.
This area largely became with the Brits. See, the Coots, the Parsis, and the Mudaliars all probably landed up with the Brits, as Dobashis, Mudaliars came.
We had a fairly large population of old Britishers who stayed back in that area. In fact, little down the road, down Davis Road, North Road, as kids we remember it used to be called Little England because there used to be so many of them in that area. And then one thing that used to shock us was they would have pictures of the Queen, most of them in the homes. The annual message of the Queen, I think sometime in December she gives a broadcast, BBC. If you walk down the road during that time, many of the homes would be listening to the broadcast of the Queen.
See, that's what I think everybody who landed from Chennai, probably they got off at the East Station here. This was the closest coming into Bangalore. I presume, even I just got off the train and because Bangalore East is the coming in from there. We first hit this. And I don't think we went anywhere further than that. We just camped around somewhere near the station.
And in the evening you'll see the old bullock carts coming with the big wheels, and we used to wonder and say why they had on each wheel they had a little rod sticking out with bells. Do you know that? So we used to ask the bullock cart driver, why are the bells? He says whenever the wheel turns the bell keeps ringing, and that's to keep away the wild animals. The old bullock carts of Bangalore.
That particular day we had a dog called Fido, I remember very well. And this dog was barking and barking and barking. When I went out, and the dog was preventing him from walking down further. When he took out the dog in class, he sees 2 eyes. This leopard went into that stormwater drain and went, and we were told to be careful and to be then St. Joseph's Convent and the schools in the neighborhood and give it a holiday because of that. Because there was a leopard in our house. And then my dad was quite ambitious about this whole thing, so let's trap this leopard. So he set up a trap with the help of his men and put a little puppy to squeak the whole night there. So the leopard would be attracted towards his dog. And we were taken by night in the hurricane lantern and shown all this. For this, it was a bit of excitement and fun. Next morning, there were paw marks on the country. Rain, drizzle. There were paw marks, but we didn't trap the leopard. Opposite, further down is Stevens Road. You know Stevens Road? There was a family called the Ainscoes. They were an Anglo-Indian family. Those boys, after a week, supposed to have shot this leopard down. That was the story of the leopard.
See, at that time, Mosque Road had only 4 shops. One Seven Stores, Deacon Stores with opposite the mosque, the bridge. That was the thing happening in this end. Here there was one Albert Bakery, which is still there, and Amir Stores or something in the front. And my aunt and I used to sit, on the balcony waiting for one person to pass Mosque Road in the evening or afternoon or something like this. And it was a great event for us to see. We get excited, go call our aunties, mothers, come and see this guy crossing.
Jimmy, me, and then there was a Vaz family near the Richards.
Lots of Bangaloreans were around.
Matt Vaz, all of us we had fun with them. There was an American boy called Peter, I forget his surname. That boy had a wagon. Okay. So in those days, can you imagine? We always used to push the wagon to the top of Richards Park. Richards Bridge. 4:35. Let go in the morning, and that wagon would take us right up to his lawyer Pinto's house.
On the road, down that bridge,
Pinto's house. And then every day there were 3 fellows who had to take turns in pushing the wagon back. And go back 30 rounds. Every evening we used to do that.
Then we saw this mosque road. That's when I first came. And you see the road going down with trees on both sides, hardly any traffic, a few bungalows this side, that side. It was something like as if you're in paradise. So let's take a drive right down. So we came right up to the Mosque Road circle. That's where the MM Road cuts. And can you imagine at certain places we even left our hands on the bike. It just drove past. So lovely it is.
Directly opposite us, there was a very large farm, an actual functioning farm. Till the time that we were probably about, probably the 80s, mid-80s. It's unbelievable, a full functioning farm. So the actual, workings of a farm, which was the crop rotation, they would have this crop and then take that off and plant the next crop. Everything went on right in front of our eyes right there at that farm.
Town was quiet, serene, and absolutely I found no life. So from Chennai I found completely driven into a lonely place. Early morning, how we see right at about 4 o'clock. Those were the times when we used to see during the peak hours. We could see the birds, we could hear the chirping of the birds, especially in the evenings, especially in front of the mosque. And it used to, long, nostalgic memories of just going for long walks.
Still now we give the address as Farm Road, not MM Road. MM Road we write, but in bracket we write it Farm Road. Because before it was called as Farm Road, because of the coconut trees.
It was called Palm Road because it was lined with coconut palms those days. And every year, I also recollect this, that every year, or maybe twice a year, the corporation people would come and they would, pluck the coconuts. I don't know, I think they would sell them or take them away, but that's a very vivid memory I have.
Yes, and just beyond. I think this little road just beyond the house, I don't know what the name of the road is. Next to that, all vineyards. There were granite, granite pillars, and then these vineyards were kind of framed along these granite pillars. Yeah, I remember going for a walk and pulling some of them and eating them.
straight at the bunches.
Davis Road, North Road, that's all. North Road, then this Milton Street, that was about the last area that we know. Then further down, that Hennur and all that was not there. There was a lake, it's called the Silver Lake. That area opposite the station was a graveyard, burial ground. So there was nothing there. It was all from school. We used to cut across all the tombstones and stuff like that. People of course will hide and scare us.
That was a graveyard. The graveyard we used to go like guides, make manja, jamrams were the beautiful trees. We had one or two of those places where we could sit and have a little secret thing with their skins.
For us it was almost like a playground, you know, because we had to walk through that cemetery to get to the other side of Plaza Road. But ghost stories there always were, lots about, you know, you avoid that whole area in the night because so-and-so's grandmother was seen at that point, and you know, there were lots of stories about Plaza Road cemetery.
Just for a while, just put it on again. That means it's 9 o'clock. All you people set your watch. It's commonly called wink. Means that's 9 o'clock.
When it winks, the news would come at 9 o'clock. So we knew the timing by that wink.
In those days, though we had doctors in our area, Dr. Gunpire was one, Dr. Fernandez, we never had a pharmacy in that area.
Where I'm now sitting right now used to be the waiting room. In one of the rooms, one of the 3 bedrooms in the house here was converted to his consulting room. So patients used to enter here, wait, we used to see them there. He used to have a compounding room. Those days medicines were not, you know, you write a chit and then go and collect that. This thing, it used to be compounded, so you'll have medicine which are mixed, tablets which are nicely ground, powder, and small, you know, used to fold it up like this and then, you know, itako, bedige, madhyana, sayankala. I have learnt a little bit of compounding and grinding of tablets and other things. He used to ensure that we support him, that we also learn a little bit.
When my father had opened that clinic here in 1947, there was no other clinic in this part of town except maybe Dr. Gunpire next door. So people came from say 50 kilometers away in bullock carts, in tangas from Russell Market. They all came here to see. Well, his clinic was at the back of the house, and every day at least 200 people would come to see him. Every day. Us children were, you know, during holidays and spare time, we go and help in the clinic, give people injections, distribute tablets quite freely. I've done that. People who didn't mind, of course, and there were lots.
The old Victorian carriages used to go up and down the road. On Wheeler Road, Victorian carriages. That's all the transport in those days. And used to be the coachman right on the front, and the coach could take 4 people. But we children, there's a footboard at the back for the footmen, they used to call it. So the footboard, we used to jump at the back and take a free ride. And somebody on the road will shout to the coachman, "Coachman, coachman, pinale, pinale." So that means, coachman at the back, at the back. And from the front he'll take his big whip like that to knock us out, and we'll all jump out.
There was a rickshaw stand there.
Stand.
Opposite the
Yes,
cycle
rickshaws. In fact, there were no autos.
Yeah, hardly. At that
Hardly.
time, hardly one, you know, very few people really had. There were mainly rickshaws.
And those days, what did we have? It was mostly these, chatkas. Chatkas, I'm sure you're aware of it. Then we had what we call cycle rickshaws. We never had autos. We had very few cars, and honking was the least then. We would hear, little of the tingling of the cycle bells, and that was so soothing to the ears.
But it was a different thing altogether. No train used to stop. If you're late, they send some fellow to the railway station. Uncle, 5 minutes, they were still getting his stuff together. come furiously on the cycle with wheelbarrow. Oh, you guys will get me in trouble and lose my job. The buses also operated on a different level. My mom could stop the bus in front of the house, put me in the bus, tell the bus driver, take him to Zafar's house, Richards Park. See that the other mother comes and takes from the bus, then go. So the guy used to do that, offering Zafar from there here.
It was a very quiet area when we moved. There was like, I remember there was only one bus service from, that was known as the ITC, was known as the Imperial Tobacco Company. There used to be one bus, one driver. It used to stop at 7 o'clock. Das was the name of the guy. So you could flag down the bus wherever you wanted, and Das would stop and pick you up. It was like just like stopping an auto and getting in.
There's a big property which is now you see the Sindhi colony. That is the whole property was one property. It's a big, an old officer's nest. They've got 19 rooms. We have about 19 rooms downstairs, 19 rooms upstairs. It was very good childhood.
It was the best period of my life, because not only did we have a huge bungalow to play around, we would play cricket, football, hockey, athletics, running races, big almond trees, huge fields, jackfruit trees, guava trees, mangoes, tamarind, anything you want was in one house.
Typically the houses were a ground floor house, but ours was the ground floor plus the floor on top, so it was ground plus one. It was built like that, but not the extended way that it actually looked finally. So what they did is they enclosed all the verandas and all the spaces as the family grew. So the front, all the houses had a drive-in sort of a porch. That was enclosed. But even when they enclosed in those days, the only glass and things available were these stained glass windows, and so that itself had a nice look, even though it was enclosed much after the house was actually built. So it was a very, very nice looking house.
Most of the houses will have this kind of wall and wooden gate.
This is the window on the window that's there.
This house also is an old one.
Old one. That's how our window had also
And the mesh.
decorated. But their city is not as high as ours.
ಎಲ್ಲನೂ ಈ ಕಾರ್ನರ್ ಮನೆ ಐತಲ್ಲ, ಅವರು ಆರ್ಮಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ರು. ಅವರು ಹೌಲ್ದಾರು. ಅವ್ರ ಮನೆ ಹೆಂಗೈತೋ ಫುಲ್ ಲೈನು ಅದೇ ಥರ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು. ಇದು ಪ್ರಭಾಕರ್ ಮನೆ ಐತೆ. ಪ್ರಭಾಕರ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಫಿಲಿಮ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟ್ರ್. ಅವ್ರ ಮನೆ ಇದೇ ಕಾರ್ನರ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಐತೆ. ಆ ಮನೆ ಹೆಂಗೈತೋ ಅದೇ ಥರನೇ ಈ ಲೈನೆಲ್ಲ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು. ಇದು ಎರಡು ಮನೆಯೂ ಹಂಗೆ ಇರೋದು. ಆ ಥರನೇ ಎ ಟೈಪ್ ಕ್ವಾರ್ಟರ್ಸು, ಬಿ ಟೈಪ್ ಕ್ವಾರ್ಟರ್ಸು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್.
We had, that's what, either side the same type of houses, same structure it was building. No change. Exactly. Now I have changed this little bit, but before everything was like this. All the houses same. Right from the corner house, this corner, to Richie's that corner. And we had beautiful footpath. I mean, you can put a bed and sleep on that. It was like that. So clean it was. So we had no compound and a lot of place to play for the children.
Houses of those days, one was always associated with the problems of living in that house. So the problems would be, have all the animals been taken in the evenings? If there were chickens, they'll be put inside their coop. And so all that is done and the doors were locked. Are all the various doors locked at night before you go to sleep? So the drains, which are the leaking points? So automatically we would go about our duties of, what buckets and pans go where, because we knew exactly the spots where it would leak from the roof.
I think the construction inside is not a bit of cement. All lime mortar or whatever, yeah.
Would you believe it that this is one half of this house? You come in the dead of summer, there's a good temperature difference.
From outside to inside.
5 degrees. You come here, for a long time we didn't There were no fans.
Not even having fans.
There was no infrastructure for fans. Look at all this what you've done. You had to break the wall, put a pipe, put a fan.
Because no, it's all stone on top.
You can't do it.
You can't drill. The slabs are there.
You wouldn't believe these things, you know. How do you put a fan here? So somebody had this idea, so everybody picked it up.
This is that Suki mortar, not doors and all are nice and thick. Nowadays when you talk about Wi-Fi router, I need a special Wi-Fi router, which they'll not give me just 5 meters. You'll have to penetrate some of these thick walls.
Most of the houses on Davis Road, even on this Wheeler Road, had a beautiful frontage, because it was a compound. Most of the houses had gardens. The area was full of flowers. Most of the houses, Bangalore has lovely flowers. We used to have all the various colors, gladulite, all these flowers. Most of the houses had, they were proud of having flowers.
This is how all the houses would be, with trees all around.
No, I got all fruit trees.
Yeah.
All jackfruit, chiku, anything.
You can
Full
take a little interview.
But this is done over last 46 years. Not done.
There were 40 trees, firstly, many of them fruit trees. You climb up and help yourself to fruit, or you sit on a branch and sing a song, or you do what, 100 things to do in a garden like that. Well, if there was a group of us hanging around doing nothing, my father would come and ask us to water the garden, dig a hole to plant a tree, or
The mango trees, that was a must in every house, and they had the silver oak, and they had what was called the pumlos, gooseberry trees, the guava trees, and jackfruit. These were the kind of fruit trees which were in every bungalow. And this jacaranda, those purple flowers, and like early morning when we would go to school, we would see the roads spread out with the falling flowers. It used to look like a carpet of flowers, and we used to feel very nice walking through that. We used to keep hopping onto them, and they would burst, giving that sound.
It was absolutely barren. There were no trees, and then they tarred this area, and then they planted trees on either side, and all the families were told to water the plants in the trees right in front of them. And I remember Mummy and me taking buckets of water and pouring it, and that's when we see the full-grown trees here.
The Dhobi used to come on donkeys from Banaswadi, and they bring the clothes, take the clothes, bring it after 1 week, home service on donkeys. Have you ever seen a donkey with clothes yet? Big bundle on the side, he'll come. And he'll tie the donkey in our house in Davis Road. My mother was shouting at him, the donkeys are eating all my plants, take your donkeys. And one day he told my mother, you told me to keep my donkeys outside the house, and it's gone. So I said, what happened? In Tamil he said, Orre galap. He says, I tried to chase it, Orre galap. He says, the donkey is gone with all the clothes.
At that time it was a very sort of a personalized service thing, and a lot of things would actually come home. Now the eggs would be delivered by a lady who would come with eggs in a basket. Bread would be from Albert Bakery around the corner. But the tailor would always come home. Well, there was Tall Tailor was the guy who do all the ladies' clothes, and so and Tall Tailor was this guy who was probably chap 5'10" or something, but he was referred to as Tall Tailor because they were tall. And so tall tailors come, and he also had to get him. Tall tailors come, tell him what tall tailors come. Yeah. So there was Tall Tailor. And there was another short chap, we didn't call him short tailor, but he was the guy who would do the men's clothes. So he would come and take our measurements, do our school uniforms. And Tall Tailor would come and do the blouses for the ladies and all that stuff.
People would bring cows home and milk. So you made sure that The thing was, as kids, they said make sure there is no water in the bucket before. So that fellow had to turn it upside down, show it to you, so that there is no water and that he's not adulterating the milk. So as kids, we thought we were like policemen. When the cow came, we would stand there and made sure that there is no water in the bucket when he did the milking.
Nandi milk, cow comes.
The cows used to come. They used to be tied to the gate, and then it was very interesting to see, to outwit them. The milkman used to see that they used to get water into the milk one way or the other. The sound of the milk, if it's a tinny sound, you know that there's no water. Now the sound has, you know, that the milk is falling into a kind of a watery, you know that there's water. Oh, it used to be quite something how they used to try to outwit us, and how Mummy used to try and catch them. It was a, you remember Mama? How they used to try and
what milk was water.
Morning 4 o'clock ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
Start 5 o'clock ಇಂದ
ಹಸುಗಳಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ನಾನ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನೀರು ಇಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಕರೆಯೋಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಕರೆದು ಆಮೇಲೆ 7 o'clock ಆಲ್ ರೆಡಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಪ್ಲೈಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು
9:30 ಫಿನಿಶ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ.
ಆಮೇಲೆ ಫ್ರೀ ಆಗಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಇವಾಗ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ.
ನಾವು ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ನಮ್ಮ ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮು 2 o'clock ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. ಈಗ ತಿರ್ಗಾ 6 o'clock 6:30 ಫಿನಿಶ್ ಆಗೋದು ತಿರ್ಗಾ ನಮ್ಮ ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್. ಅದೇ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಲೀವ್ ಅನ್ನೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಎನಿ ಟೈಮ್ ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಅದೇ ಕೆಲಸ ಅಂತೂ 24 hours ದಿನ ಆದರೆ ಮಾಡೇ.
ಮ್ಯಾರೇಜ್ಗೂ ಲೀವ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಡೆತ್ಗೂ ಲೀವ್ ಇಲ್ಲ.
The two things that in that area where we had a lot of cycle shops where you could rent cycles, and there was no gas those days, so you had a lot of firewood, what is known as firewood depots. You would go select your firewood and then they would chop it up, and then they would either take it, bring it on a hand cart if the quantity was large, or if it was for an immediate requirement, you tie it up on the carrier of your cycle and take it home.
Initiate used to be Rasi market.
But if you want a good collection, you have to go to
Rasi market.
These were also
Once a week. And then you kind of buy the provisions for a week, and then you need a little bit fill in the blanks. It used to be in this area, you know, locally.
Mom for shopping would only go to Russell Market. Well, sometimes Coxtown Market, it was also there, or Moore Road. Sorry, not Coxtown Market, you would go to Moore Road Market, which was considered our neighborhood market. But if you wanted the good stuff, you would have to go to Russell Market.
There was AM Cafe on Coles Road. That used to be a hangout. There was an AM Cafe gang.
Where there was an AM cafe, which was it was a small little place, a nice place to have coffee and maybe some cupcakes and all they used to have.
A place called AM Bakery on Coles Road, which is a very old bakery. That was a haunt because it did become popular because it had a jute box. So a lot of people would go there. It was a place where you could go. Much later in Frasertown was Tom's. That's very much later. I think that also because the attraction was the girls from Jyoti Niwas.
Tom's was basically a eating joint, you know, and there was a jukebox there.
Jukebox. That was a great thing.
That was our biggest
attraction.
The place which was famous at that time was just before the Benson Town Bridge came up. Deva's Bar. It's featured in Paul's that was a classic place. They used to go there maybe once in a way, just have a glass of beer or something. Not that we were drinkers, but just for the ambience, you know. You get the feel that they are big shots who can handle a drink. We couldn't have more than a beer. more than the booze, it was the spare parts. Kidney fry, liver fry, and brain fry, masala, and all. That was the tasty part. So that place is gone, but it was really super.
Everest. Yes, Everest was the one, Hindi movie.
That is here.
And we all used to go for matinee shows. Lavanya.
That was Hindi.
Tamil also with Roshan.
That
Mummy
is
had
Hindi.
a friend, Roshan Sunawala. She knew Tamil. So she and I and her daughter Zareen, three of us would go and see a Tamil movie because I like Tamil movies very much. And I couldn't understand. So as the movie was going, they used to be telling us, what's happening, what's happening. There on Wheeler Road, there was that Stella, as I told you, Stella Studio.
He's still there.
He's still there?
Yes.
Stella Studio is not there?
Yes, he is still there.
So I'm saying in the 1950s, late 50s, the studio was started, and my father was taking photographs of most of the places in this entire city. People used to come for passport size photographs, and then family functions, weddings were another famous things. And now second, third generation, even the fourth generation of family do come to our studio, and it's more like it's more like a family, a homely situation here. Almost every day I have at least 5 to 10 people sometimes walking in. They drop in for a few minutes, talk about old times and move on.
And every weekend it was a picnic at Kaban Park with the children. And once a week, maybe on a Sunday or a public holiday, it was Lal Bagh. And then from Lal Bagh, it was very traditional to go and eat at MTR. And that deer, there was a deer park in Lal Bagh.
There was a deer park.
Yeah, there were deers there also.
Yes.
Yes.
In Lal Bagh.
In Lal Bagh.
Lal Bagh and Kaban Park used to be our Sunday outings, There only we get masala dosa. Masala dosa we have in Kaban Park only.
The band used to play.
Band was there, we enjoyed ourselves. That also we enjoyed.
We used to go to the fountain in Kaban Park, and that fountain was one major event. Every Sunday they used to light up, then they had a band playing live music.
When I moved in there, I was 55, I was about very young. So the very first time we had this military band, suddenly one military truck came up. We used to play in the park, and suddenly a lot of people in the army, so I assume they're soldiers. So we were suddenly wondering why so many soldiers have come to the park, and we sort of got scared and ran away. Then we happened to know that then they set up and they started playing.
For our house, there used to be a group that used to come over to play because we had a large, what is called a compound. And so the area around the house, we used to come and play there. So there used to be football, badminton in front with a net from the main door to the gate, or badminton at the Fernandez's house, or cricket outside the Patel's house, or there was hockey and cricket outside the Abreo's house on Mukesh Muglia Road. So each place had its own area for the game, of that area, or the game of that season. So it was great fun actually.
Yeah, it was good fun. Get up early in the morning, go ring doorbells, do stuff like that. Ring doorbells at 4 or 5 in the morning, screaming. Put some bubble gum add it to it. Keep it ringing. So it was fun. I mean, it was all child thing. Kids used to go out and hang out. People rent cycles or get it repaired. 5 paise. Whole day I think 50 paise. So, we don't go and return it, you land up in the night, speak to our parents. They're kicking. They take it back.
So all these boys, during their holidays, they would go onto the terrace tops and you would see, the sky full of kites. And we girls, we would also go up and, we would hold what is called that, we used to call them, latti. Yeah, we would hold that, and they used to have that manja around and they would have that kite flying, and then they would have great fun cutting each other's kite. And another game was what was called the pigeon flying, which I never see here. Many of the houses used to, keep the pigeons as their pets. And they used to attract pigeons from far off also. They used to train a pigeon. Like, the pigeon would be left out. When they see a flock of pigeons flying, the boys would go onto the terrace and there would be one pigeon out. And that pigeon would go and mingle with those pigeons, and the boys here would clap their hands very loudly, to get back that one pigeon, and that one pigeon would bring all the pigeons back home. So that is how the pigeons in each house would multiply, and then that's how they would compete with each other as to how we are trying to get your pigeon, and sometimes it used to end in fights also. So you have taken so many of our pigeons.
In the parish hall it was around about 1960s, 70s, we used to have these talent shows where anyone could participate. It's not just the parishioners of our church. And the first prize used to be 10 rupees, the second prize 5 rupees, and the third prize 2 rupees. Now to get up onto the stage, you can sing, dance, do whatever you want. But when you get up onto the stage, you need the guts to go up on the stage, because there is a lot of guys who are going to be bowing you around and things like that. So to get up on the stage, you need to have a peg to fortify your spirits. So we used to go all the way down to Bangalore Road to the local arak shop to have one or two stiff ones and go over there to sing. Now, those were the guys who had the talent and the guts to go up and sing. We, the chickens, we never used to go up there, but we used to taunt these fellows from down below. So how we used to do it, we started something called the time bombs. Lakshmi bombs, which are lit during Diwali time, the huge ones. We used to take those and keep it outside. Now how we keep it outside is, we take a agarbatti piece, tie it to the wick, light the wick, keep it somewhere outside under the staircase or somewhere, and we go inside very patiently listening to the show going on inside. And suddenly, while this guy is strumming away at his guitar, suddenly, bang, a big noise. Whew, he has forgotten his words also, and many times the fellow used to take off, the prize is gone. And this happened so many times. Once the parish priest came out and he says, "Boys, who are these fellows? Who are these fellows lighting these bombs? If I catch them, I'll kill them." And the funny thing is, we had sent my cousin Paul Fernandez's brother Joe to buy the bombs, and he was coming back with his shirt full of bombs. "No, father, I don't know who these fellows."
And as kids, how we used to play around, we would keep our ear on the railway track just to find out, how far is the train coming. That is how we were so daring. And we were just left loose like that, but we never used to come home and tell that is how we did it. So one day we got caught doing that. Somebody noticed us, keeping our ear to the track, and we were taken to task.
We would get more into reading or needlework, the normal things that girls are supposed to do. Yeah. So all those kinds of hobbies were picked up because we had to evaluate the time. So those were the activities we used to do. And my grandmother used to do all this crochet and knitting and all that.
We used to be at home. We had our own games to play, carom and all this thing we used to play. And the best of all was our badminton. That was light thing, shuttlecock in the house only. In the house we had, my father had a compound. We used to play inside and butt. We would make one aeroplane draw thing and use to play. And we called it butty. Yes. First three steps, then aeroplane. And then now the center there's one, then again three.
People were very friendly, everybody knew everybody else. We all used to meet and everybody knew each other.
Visiting was very important. Visiting at that time was very important.
Either you went or they came, one way or the other.
Evenings were never alone. We were never alone at home. People, either we went to visit them or they would come to visit us that way.
There were 10 of us children who lived in that house and grew up there, born there, grew up there. And each one of us had at least 10 friends coming there every day. And it was an open house, a table full of good food all the time. I don't know how my mother managed that. But there was food for everyone. And when one group finished, the next group would just come in and polish everything off.
Everybody was a friend, whether he was, servant's son or whether he was a big guy. we were all kids, so we had a good time. There was no real difference whether he was a Muslim or whether he was a Hindu, whether he was a thing. I mean, that thing wasn't so distinct, so polarized, it has become now. Now we'll have a picture of Christ in the puja room, candle, we're all living together, so it was a good, very great feeling.
I remember our road, for instance, where our house was a Catholic home. Our next door neighbors were Hindu, and their neighbors were a Muslim family. And then, there were so many different kinds of people on that road. But we all got together nearly every day for some reason or the other.
My left neighbor was a Christian, and to the right was a Hindu. So, for Ramzan, we'd send them a biryani, we'd send them the sweets. For Diwali, they would send us the Diwali sweets. Christmas, of course, there was Christmas cake. And then a very nice thing which we all would do is we'd go carol singing. And we had kids of all communities. We'd go around the streets carol singing. It was such fun in the nights. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Carol singing was great fun. Like, that cold, December would be that cold season, and we would just wait, and they would come carol singing at around 12:30. And it used to feel so nice to hear them, and we would just wait, when are they going to come into our street? Those days, all houses were lit with diyas. And we would go and help them, and all we children would, light those diyas, and we would keep it on the walls. And sometimes we would also keep it onto our walls, and the whole street would be lit with diyas. Diwali would be a lovely festival, and there would be so much of competition as to when we are going to sleep late, who's going to burst the largest number of crackers. And we would hear the sound from one street, one explosion, and then we would burst some more crackers, sort of to compete with them. So that's how we used to enjoy Diwali.
The other big one was Ramzan, because in this area there were a fair number of Muslims, and all of us had Muslim friends, and even one close Muslim friend. So my friend Asif, Ramzan, without even an invitation, you would all be at Asif's house for Ramzan for biryani. There's no two ways about that. It's taken for granted that we're all there, and we're not there just for biryani. We're there to eat as much biryani as you can. So the big thing was how much biryani we've eaten at Asif's house at Ramzan.
I never knew what was caste those days.
Yeah, exactly.
I really didn't know caste.
Yeah.
Very open-minded, and then in the sense they open to everybody.
Yeah,
very much. Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whatever. So it wasn't.
We never felt we were out of place in this place.
Only then when I started going to college, which was college, then a little bit I started learning. Okay, there is something called caste.
I never knew about my caste. I never cast expressions, or I never sort of concentrated or knew anything about my caste until I came to the college. Everybody, nothing else. We mixed with them. My best friends were Sardajis, North Indians, right? In the school, I grew up with a caste feeling. Only when we went to engineering college, that area, this cosmopolitan area, that cosmopolitan atmosphere is only here. As you enter, there's a certain aura about this town, Fraser town. It's so different. It's still, although it's called reference, it tells you that you're here. Ask anybody and see how they feel about it.
There are many trains, and we know quite a few of them. So we can say this is Shatabdi, this is Bangalore Mail, etc. And even earlier, when it was a single line and a steam engine, that was one of the places where we as young boys used to go there, get grease, and play around with the grease and all that. So these are one of the smaller charms of growing up in a nice area.
See, I always like smelling the puff of the tobacco cigarettes. I somehow like to. So people tell them. And when we sit in the garden sometimes,
You get that smell.
Then they said there is a tobacco factory, ITC, and it's from ITC, and I used to like it.
You know, there was this sense of belonging. People owned up for their street, for their roads, for their trees, for the people who were living on the street. And that kept things in a very homely and a kind of, it gave a tone of the old Bangalore.
I'd say, compared to, let's say, other towns and other cities, this part of town, especially in Bangalore, had a deep sense of belonging. You know, you wanted to come back home to this atmosphere, the way people lived here, the friendliness, quite different from any other city I've been to in India especially, and South India too.
If you ask me, in spite of my scientific achievements or whatever working, I know we have advanced, I still have to go back.
I remember, you know, the conservancy lanes were used for the very purpose. And the cleaning people would have a small cart drawn to the back door of the house, and they came in there very early in the morning to clean the to clean the bathrooms especially. And they disappeared before everyone got, all the lords and memsahs got up. They're gone. But all that went quickly out of fashion, you know, in the 60s and by the 70s we had taps and water and sewage lines and everything else. Or even earlier, but I can't remember.
She was lucky she studied in Linux.
In those days, it was a co-ed. And to get the girl to go to a boys' school was a taboo.
Playing tennis was a taboo.
His sisters were playing tennis, so they were called like, you know, very high social.
They didn't find bridegrooms, you know that? At that time, because that time.
Oh, the girls who played tennis.
I found funny that people play tennis. Could you believe that?
Very old fashioned, so they wouldn't how to be wore saris only, they wouldn't allow us to go. In school, I studied there only for 1 year or 2 years, I think, 1 year, because they were very orthodox those days, my parents and his parents and all that. So they didn't allow me to wear frocks and go to parents' school.
This damn sewer at the back was a beautiful stream, you know, which we used to play as kids. We used to swim, we used to catch fish, frogs, this, that. Imagine this, you can't even stand there, you know, the stink of it. So that was a beautiful little things. And yeah, and during monsoons it was like full, you know.
Today they call it a sewage nala or something like that. It's not a sewage nala. I mean, I have played in the nala myself. It was extremely clean. We're talking about Mosque Road, the nala is extremely clean. That is the stormwater drain. Now, if you look at the construction of the stormwater drain, it comes like a V shape, and then you have a small, half circle in the periphery of that drain to take the trickle of water which goes to also. So we used to leave a paper boat over there and probably collect it just after Stephens Road and other way.
Right from our wall, there was a sort of a small bund, and then it just went down into a sort of grassy slope to a small stream in the middle. Because I mean, it was actually a rainwater drain. And the drain by itself was a very clean drain because it actually had grassy slopes on the sides and was maintained very clean. Nobody threw garbage into the drain. You wouldn't do that. It looked so nice actually. And so there were times that we used to go to catch guppies when we were very small in that stream. Or when playing here, the ball would always go over, so somebody has to jump and go and get the ball. By the time we actually left the area, that was one of the biggest problems we had with the area, because it had changed so much over the years.
So I'm just saying, the amount of vehicles now, you can't even cross the road, and it was so safe. We could just walk around anytime. Grandmother's house was up roads away. We would just walk by anytime, even late night. We had no problem, no issues. But now there's more people, and things are not so safe as before.
कितने सालों से है ये बिल्डिंग?
7-8 साल हो गए। ये हमारा घर नहीं हम यहाँ रहते थे जब छोटे थे।
In fact, in my mind's eye, now when I go walking and I go into these streets, I mean, where we stayed, where we stayed, and I go to see that where is my house, and it is not there. It is not there, it has become a building.
I'd say ever since my father's house came down, and I noticed that, the great change we were going to face, this huge family getting into flats and apartments. It really made me wonder what else was happening in town here. So I used to go around quite a bit, looking at old buildings and taking notes of things changing so rapidly. And that's why I started drawing things for myself first. And then I found people also quite, bothered about what was happening to their town. So it struck a chord with lots of people who lived here in the past. And the youngsters too, they kind of got a picture of what it was. So that's what's driven me to do this.
You can't go back. That's over and done with. But we are destroying also in the process.
Richardstown is a town of a lot of past, great heritage. But as Winston Churchill once said, if you sit in judgment of the past, we'll miss the future. Yeah. So I believe we also need to protect this heritage of the past by taking some steps. Yeah. Yes, like any other town in Bangalore, Richardstown is also going to is growing. Yeah, there is a lot of people seeking commercial activities here, and we are trying to control it as much as possible by protesting, by challenging them. One of the first focus area where for us is to control the transiting traffic through Richardstown. Once there is transit traffic, obviously commercial activities are bound to increase. We believe that if we are able to control that, I think some part of the past will be still protected.
See, we are now trying to beautify this whole area. I don't know if you've seen from Hall Road side. If you come from the electric office side, you'll see we are doing up all these trees, the pathways and all that. So we have a lot of grant from the corporation. So we are at the back of the operator. We are in good terms with this fellow. So we're trying to get these things done. I was telling them to bring up the footpaths and all that.
This park was established and well developed when I was an MLA. That is, I am telling 94, 95, 96. Before that, there was due to some politicians, it was misused, that park, and they created some wrong documents. Then I have to go and catch hold of the BBMP and got the real, who is the owner? The BBMP is the owner. And there are the builders, they came to me. You take this much. I said, I am not interested in money. I don't want money. I want to see this garden city should be maintained as a garden.
There was a problem with actually people taking care of the park on a day-to-day basis. And that kind of continued for 4-5 years, and of course, through sheer neglect, green things started turning brown. Now, this was again an effort by the RIMAPE, Residents Welfare Association Bangalore East, to kind of be an example, saying that if you take ownership of something, one was people saw the change in the park. Within a year, it was green, it was beautiful. We found people really noticing the difference. We have our flea markets, which we do now to raise funds for the park maintenance. There is a sense of belonging, there's a sense of ownership, and there's a family feeling, which has come because of the connect of this park. So this was the starting point, and it's kind of permeated into many other areas, and it's wonderful to see that.
There must be some technical solution.
There should be, but they don't work on it.
So what is the real solution? Should it be just a bottoms up from the people up to the government, or should it be top down? What should be the targets to be achieved? Whether it is in garbage, whether it is in pollution terms, in specific terms, what should be the air quality index, and all those things, if we can fix a parameter, and the government works with all the stakeholders, whether it is the people, whether it is the general public, whether it is the institutions which are there in Bangalore, whether it is the corporate world. So this is where all the stakeholders have to sit together, prepare a plan for the next 5 years from 2018 to 2023, and each one is responsible. It is not that just the government can do something. Every person living in this city has to take up the responsibility.
It all depends on the people here, and our association, which is the Richardstown Residents Association, we are trying to involve as many as people to make it a very powerful body, because ultimately people power will speak.